Today, we're taking a look at the Seiko dive watch that sits in a very interesting place in Seiko's history. This is the Seiko SRP 231, and depending on who you ask, you might hear it called the Prospex Diver, or more commonly, the Baby Tuna. But here's the funny thing. Seiko never officially called this watch a Baby Tuna. That nickname actually came from collectors. And it all comes down to the design of the case. Once you understand where that design comes from, the nickname starts to make a lot more sense. Because this watch carries design DNA from one of the most famous dive watches Seiko has ever made. The SRP 231 was introduced in 2012. At the time, it was part of Seiko's Superior automatic diver line. The Superior line sat in an interesting spot in Seiko's lineup. These watches were built to offer upgraded mechanical dive watches, stronger construction, improved movements, but still at a relatively accessible price. Not long after this watch was introduced, Seiko began consolidating many of these watches under a different name, Prospex. Prospex stands for Professional Specifications, but it's where Seiko places watches designed for real professional environments. For example, in aviation, Seiko produced watches like the Seiko Flightmaster. This watch included a slide rule bezel used by pilots for flight calculations. In motorsports and racing, Seiko produces chronographs like the Prospex Speed Timer. These watches measured elapsed time and can calculate speed using a tachometer scale. And in diving, Seiko produces watches like the Patty Turtle. The watch is part of a Seiko's modern professional dive watch lineup. The SRP 231 follows that same philosophy, a rugged mechanical tool watch designed for real-world use. One interesting thing about the Seiko 2 watches is that each category often has its own unique case design. Aviation watches, like the Flightmaster, tend to have very busy dials. They include slide rule bezels designed for calculations. The racing chronographs, like the Speed Timer, focuses on measuring elapsed time. You'll usually see chronograph pushers and tachometer scales. Dive watches often follow very specific case shapes. Shapes designed for underwater durability and, more importantly, legibility. A great example is the Patty Turtle. It uses Seiko's famous custom-shaped case, but the watch we're looking at today takes a completely different approach. Instead of the turtle case, the SRP 231 uses a protective outer shroud surrounding the steel case, and that gives it a much more industrial tool watch appearance. That design choice connects this watch to one of Seiko's most legendary dive watches. The SRP 231 is a mechanical automatic diver. It's rated for 200 meters of water resistance. That makes it fully capable of recreational scuba diving. Inside the watch is Seiko's 4R36 automatic movement. This is a 24 joule mechanical movement. It has a power reserve of about 41 hours. The movement also includes hacking seconds. That means the second hand stop when you set the time. It can also be hand wound. These two features were important upgrades over Seiko's older 7S26 movement. The movement runs at 21,600 vibrations per hour, and it's known for being extremely durable and reliable. Seiko movements are not designed to be the most elaborately finished movements in the watch world, but they are designed to keep running for many years with minimal maintenance. The case size of the SRP 231 is about 44 millimeters. The thickness is roughly 13 millimeters. The watch uses a stainless steel inner case, and that case is a black protective outer shroud. The shroud is what gives the watch its nickname. The purpose of the shroud is simple. It protects the case and bezel from impacts and scratches. And this idea actually comes from Seiko's professional saturation diving watches. In 1975, Seiko released a professional diver known as the 6159 7010. This watch introduced the shrouded case design. It also introduced several engineering innovations designed specifically for deep sea diving. Because of its cylindrical shape, collectors eventually nicknamed it the tuna. And over time, that shrouded case became one of the most recognizable dive watch designs Seiko's ever created. Because the SRP 231 uses a similar shrouded architecture, but in a smaller automatic diver, collectors started calling it the Baby Tuna. It takes the architecture of the professional tuna diver and scales it down into something much more wearable. The dial follows the classic Seiko diver layout. Large, luminous markers make the watch extremely easy to read underwater. The hands are oversized and highly visible. That's important for dive watches, or legibility can be a matter of safety. Seiko uses their Lumibrite luminous compound on both the hands and the markers. Lumibrite is widely considered one of the strongest lume materials used in watches today. Once exposed to light, it can glow brightly for hours in the dark. And the watch also includes a day and date display at the 3 o'clock position. Surrounding the dial is a unidirectional rotating dive bezel. The bezel allows divers to track elapsed time underwater, and it only rotates in one direction. That prevents accidentally extending a dive time if the bezel is bumped. Another interesting detail about this watch is its place in Seiko's timeline. The SRP 231 was introduced in early 2012. The example I'm wearing here is manufactured in April of that same year. So this watch actually comes from the very early production period of that model. Seiko only produced this reference for a few years. Later, it was replaced by the newer Baby Tuna models. That relatively short production run is actually pretty typical for Seiko. Instead of producing one model unchanged for decades, Seiko tends to update their watches every few years. Sometimes with new movements, sometimes with new case designs, and sometimes with small design changes. One thing that has always made Seiko dive watches so popular is a reputation for durability. These watches are built as true tool watches. The focus is on reliability, strong looms, practical designs, not luxury finishing. Professional divers, pilots, and adventurers have relied on Seiko watches for decades. So while the SRP 231 might not be the most famous Seiko diver ever produced, it still represents a really interesting part of Seiko's dive watch history. It combines the rugged design inspiration of the legendary tuna diver with a reliable automatic movement and the durable construction Seiko 2 watches are known for. And that's exactly why collectors continue to appreciate what many people now call the Baby Tuna. Guys, thank you for stopping by. Thank you for watching. If you like this and you are not following right now, please hit the like, the subscribe, and the bell buttons. And we will see you guys on the next one. Thank you.